is the 2017 Ranger Handbook, put out by the Ranger Training Brigade of the U.S. Army Infantry School at Fort Benning, Georgia. Sometimes they have more recent versions out. This is a version that I have, and it still has some useful information in it. To make a poncho raft, normally it's constructed to cross rivers and streams when the current is not swift. A poncho raft is especially useful when the unit is still dry and when the platoon leader wants to keep their equipment dry. There are several things to consider when constructing and using a poncho raft. Equipment requirements: 2 serviceable ponchos, 2 weapons, poles can be used instead of weapons, 2 rucksacks for each team, and by weapons they mean gun. In the military we're not supposed to say gun, we're supposed to say weapon for our rifles. 2 rucksacks for each team, 10 feet of utility cord for each team, and 1 sling rope for each team. So 2 ponchos, 2 weapons, 2 rucksacks, 2 sets of 10 feet of utility cord, and 1 sling rope for each team. Conditions: poncho rafts are used to cross water obstacles when at least one of the following conditions is found. The water obstacle is too wide for a 150-foot section of rope, in which case you'd make a rope bridge instead, or there's no sufficient near-shore or far-shore anchor points that are available to allow rope bridge construction. Under no circumstances are poncho rafts used to cross a water obstacle if the current is unusually swift. So this is very little stuff that you can use to make your own raft. That's pretty cool. Before you actually make the raft, though, you have to choose a crossing site. And before a crossing site is used, a thorough reconnaissance of the immediate area is made. Analyzing the situation using MET-TC, which we'll talk about at another time, the patrol leader chooses a crossing site that offers as much cover and concealment as possible and has entrance and exit points that are as shallow as possible. For speed of movement, it is best to construct or to choose a crossing site that has near-shore and far-shore banks that are easily traversed by an individual ranger, basically by a person by themselves. The execution phase to construct a poncho raft. Pair off the unit or patrol in order to have the necessary equipment. Tie off the hood of one poncho and lay it on the ground with the hood up. Place weapons in the center of the poncho, and there's a typo in my version, it says about 26 April 2017 inches apart, where someone copied and pasted and put in the date instead of how many inches apart. Muzzle to butt. So you put the weapons in the center of the poncho, you place your rucksacks and FLC between the weapons, with the 2 people placing the rucksacks as far as possible. You start to undress, bottom to top boots first. Take laces completely out for subsequent uses, tie downs if necessary. Place your boots over the muzzle or butt of the weapon, toe in. Continue to undress, folding each item neatly and placing on top of your boots. Once all the equipment is placed between the 2 weapons or poles, snap the poncho together. Lift the snapped portion of the poncho into the air and tightly roll it down to the equipment. Start at the center and work out to the end of the raft, creating pigtails at the end, and we'll need pictures. This is faster and easier with 2 rangers working together. Fold the pigtailed ends inward and tie them off with a single bootlace. Lay out the other poncho on the ground with the hood up. In the center of this poncho, place the other poncho with equipment. Snap, roll, and tie the whole package up as before. Tie the 3rd and 4th bootlaces around the raft, about 1 foot from each other for added security. The poncho raft is now complete. And people can, look at the situation, right, to see whether you place the weapons inside the poncho raft or whether it's dangerous and so you need to keep them slung across your back, whether to remain dressed or to strip down with the clothes placed inside the raft. Obviously, if it's cold, you're not going to get in water and be wet and cold and have bad time. The main point of the poncho raft is to get your stuff to float and not sink. That is the goal, although you could also sit on it too. It's basically you're making this like hot dog tube that has air, that's kind of airtight and can float. The idea is you're taking your, like what was described in here, right? You're taking your ruck and you're taking off your boots and using your boot laces and your weapons as like poles, right? So you have 2 weapons, 2 poles that are on top of the rucksack, and then you're folding the poncho over and tying it off to these weapons in a way that you've made a floaty hot dog. And it's heavy because your ruck that you're carrying has all of your equipment in it. It's It's a heavy thing. There's a guy with the raft over top of him. There's an image somewhere of a guy on his belly lying on his poncho raft and kind of doggy paddling across, and he's down and low. And so you can see, since the weapons would be in the middle of your ruck, or of the raft, they would be difficult to obtain, and you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to not access them if you were in an area where you needed to have them slung on your back instead. It's not so impossibly difficult. Literally, the backpack is face down. And they're doing a similar thing. They're using 2 sticks and then their supplies in the middle, and then they're wrapping multiple ponchos around. So one more time, you make sure to tie off the hood of the poncho, right, and then the hood is up, and then you place the weapons in the center of the poncho, right, and they're like that. You put the rucksacks in the FLC, your FLC, like this vest net thing that you put stuff on, that you can hook your things to. 2 people placing their rucksacks apart as far as possible, right? Because if you want to make a really big raft, you have one poncho, one rucksack, and another rucksack, right? Start to undress, bottom to top, because some people in these pictures, you see them just tying up like one little, like just so they can carry their own stuff. But really what you're doing is, as a team, you're putting 2 sets of things here, so you can make one really nice long raft, right? And that's awesome. Place the rucksacks and FLC between the weapons, with 2 people placing their rucksacks as far apart as possible. And then you start to take your clothes off. You take your laces out so that you can use them to tie stuff. You put your boots over the muzzle or butt of the weapon, toe in, and you continue to undress. Fold everything neatly. That's very important. You put everything on top of the boots. Once all your equipment is in between the 2 poles, and you snap the poncho together. So you snap the poncho together, like with what comes with it, right? You lift the snap portion of the poncho into the air and tightly roll it down to the equipment. Start at the center and work out to the end of the raft, creating pigtails at the end. Fold the pigtails ends inward and tie them off with a single bootlace. Lay the other poncho on the ground with the hood up. In the center of this poncho, place the other poncho with equipment. So we have 2 layers of protection, right? Snap, roll, and tie the whole package up as before. Tie the 3rd and 4th bootlace or utility cord around the raft, about 1 foot from each end for added security. And the poncho raft is now complete. Isn't that cool? And that's not that hard. Any of us could do that. We just need to practice it a little bit.